You guys are under attack because of the Duke coal ash spill. And, of course,
Yeah.
Governor, you worked for Duke Power, and the allegations are flying all over the place that you and the Secretary of Diener have been too cozy with Duke Power on this Duke ash spill. How do you respond to that?
Well, apparently we might have actually done it ourselves. Went out there late at night with a shovel. That's the next allegation that's coming out. I mean, it's just totally ridiculous. In fact, my administration is the first administration in North Carolina history to ever sue Duke Energy over coal ash, which we did, I think, our second month in office. And John Scavarla came in and, frankly, advised me of what they were going to do. This was back in February time period and I said, do the right thing. I said, do the right thing, regardless of the consequences. Do the right thing. And he's actually been the one taking action, the first Diener secretary and you'll see this in the records, that actually did anything on coal ash and started taking action. And what's even more ironic, our Attorney General is the lawyer that we had to work through to make the initial agreements, but his name is never brought up in this issue. But the facts are going to come out about what our administration did, and you're going to see we did things right. There probably are going to be some issues from in the past on some things should have been done in the past, and it's going to be interesting. All the people that were subpoenaed by a grand jury, none of those people were people that I hired in my administration. They all came from previous administration hires. It's going to be interesting. We don't know what the results of a secret grand jury will be, but I know none of the people that I brought in are being investigated.
The grand jury convened yesterday. As I understand it, they're meeting again today and again tomorrow to look into whether or not the relationship between your administration and Duke is too cozy on this situation. And
no, that's actually not the grand jury's. It's whether Diener, and not just my administration, but this grand jury is going back 3 to 4 years, I believe.
Right. Well, that's true.
So
that's fair.
I've been in office only 13 to 14 months.
That was unfair the way I stated that. But I will say this: there are employees from inside Diener that have now come out and probably will testify with the grand jury, saying that they feel like that Secretary Scavarla has not really done what he needed to do in being hard enough on Duke. So what do you think?
Well,
what's
actually,
your response?
It's one employee, a former employee, that is saying that with no specific examples ever given. She's going to the media an awful lot, but there's not been one specific example of anything that anyone in my administration has done which says go easy on Duke. And listen, I worked for Duke for 29 years. A lot of friends of mine are still over there. A lot of them have retired, but I'm also extremely disappointed in Duke Energy from several standpoints. One is, where are they? They need to come out of the shadows, and their top management team is yet to make a public comment on camera. And I think they're handling this extremely poorly, and they ought to come out in public and reassure the public, but they haven't. They're doing the opposite of what BP did when an accident occurs. They're staying in the shadows, and frankly, they need to come out of the shadows.
Have you made any attempt to try to talk to the top-level executive team at Duke to try to encourage them to do that and to handle this differently than they have?
Well, I've had one probably 5-minute conversation with the CEO of Duke Energy, and that's exactly what I said. But I have to be also extremely careful what I say, because there is a grand jury, but we never talked about that. But I basically said, y'all need to come out and tell us your plan, and they presented us a plan, which was 4 pages long, and it was very insufficient. And I'm very disappointed in my old teammates.
Is it your point of view that they, with this coal ash spill into the Dan River, is it your point of view that they were careless, or is there something more nefarious going on there?
It's the one thing I do know this, and they didn't know what was underneath the coal ash plant. And this probably goes back a long time. and by the way, this goes back a long time in government. The Dan River plant's been closed for 3 or 4 years. So they closed it down. Actually, there's a brand new modern gas turbine plant there. Most people don't realize that coal plant is closed. But when they closed it, they seemed to just not worry about it anymore. And they didn't know about the infrastructure underneath the coal ash pond, and that is just irresponsible from an engineering standpoint and an environmental standpoint and a management standpoint. And just because you close a plant down doesn't mean you don't have responsibility for it anymore. And the issue I had when I immediately went out there on the second or third day of the spill, and John went out there the day after the spill, we heard one thing about one cracked pipe, but since then more and more information has come out, not only at that plant, but for other plants. And it causes us great concern about the lack of oversight over the infrastructure needed to protect coal ash ponds from our rivers and streams. But this has been ongoing for many, many, many years. That pipe didn't break just because it just happened to be during my administration. That thing's been waiting to break for probably decades. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure they even knew that pipe was underneath the coal ash pond. So that's a
right. major
issue within that organization, and also within all the authorities. There's been a lot of issues. The Utilities Commission used to be in charge of this up until 3 or 4 years ago. So there's a lot of other information that you're not reading about that I think will come out. It's going to be very interesting.
So your assessment, though,
we're being very transparent. By the way, every record we're showing I've waived all client attorney privilege for my administration. We're releasing every document that we're releasing to the federal government and to the courts.
That was going to be my next question, and we'll kind of wrap this up. There's some other things I wanted to talk to you about this morning, but you're confident that this grand jury investigation and this grand jury that's been convened will, at the end of the day, that your administration will end up with a favorable report from them?
I'd be surprised if we've done anything improper, because everything we've done in conjunction with the Attorney General's office since the short period of time that we've been in office. But we've got to let this thing work and proceed, and we need to clean up this mess. Yeah. And I'm going to help lead the effort.
Governor Pat McCrory. Let me move on to some other things. The hot topic on my show yesterday was the release of the long-awaited Medicaid Reform Panel's report that came out on Monday. And, of course, you appointed a 5-person panel that included 3 folks from the private sector, and most of them with medical experience, some of them are medical doctors. I think one of them was a PhD. And then 2 people from the legislature, of course, Nelson Dollar from the House and Senator Lewis Pate, our local senator that represents Pitt County here in Greenville. Senator Pate's also the chairman of the Senate Health and Human Services Committee. He was on yesterday panning this report, saying that it does not go nearly far enough and is not going to do what is necessary to curtail the out-of-control spending with Medicaid. What's your reaction to Senator Pate's comments?
Well, I welcome his comments, and we welcome his input. Probably my only constructive criticism for the senator, who's a good friend of mine, is he probably should have made these public comments while he was on the committee instead of after the committee meets and votes on this matter. And the committee voted, and it was near unanimous. I think he was a dissenting vote, but did not make any public comments. But I respect his viewpoint, and if he has other ideas and members of the Senate and House have better ideas to make it a better bill, we'll accept it. We have no problem with that. All I know is we better reform Medicaid, or our state finances are going to be in serious trouble during the next several years. So I welcome Senator Pate's input and ideas and solutions, not just critique, but his solutions, and present those solutions instead of just critique.
He says that when Senator Pate was on with us yesterday, Governor, he said that the report and this new concept that's coming out would only save about 2 to 3% over a 3 to 5 year period, and that the nationwide statistics show that Medicaid is increasing 6%. Does he have a point? Does there need to be a more aggressive strategy with Medicaid?
Well, again, I welcome his ideas and his solutions instead of just this constructive criticism. If he has some ideas to strengthen the bill, which he can get the votes for, we welcome.
All right, let's talk about some other. You
There's
mentioned
a lot of interested parties in Medicaid reform, and this is the first administration to announce and to try Medicaid reform in the state of North Carolina. And we got our plan out there, and we welcome ideas to strengthen the plan.
He also said he does not think this plan will pass the legislature. So I assume between now and May, when the short session begins, there's going to be a lot of give and take with Senator Pate and some of the other folks in the legislature trying to get some sort of agreement on something that everybody can feel good about.
Well, again, I encourage Senator Pate to present a plan that will pass the legislature.
What I hear you saying, Governor, is don't criticize it if you don't have any better ideas. Is that what you're saying?
You got it. Well, we welcome input, and we welcome his ideas and others. And my goal is to get a plan passed, and it takes someone to first present a plan, and that's exactly what we've done. We do welcome other ideas to make the bill even stronger, if we can get the votes for it.
Let me move on to some other things. You mentioned the Attorney General. He is out in Pitt County today. He's going to be visiting one of our local Pitt County high schools today, promoting a program to try to influence high school kids not to use prescription drugs. Are we about to see a new public service campaign with Attorney General Cooper using tax dollars to promote himself on TV? You know, that was something that Mike Easley used quite effectively and was criticized for.
If he does, I don't know where he's going to get the money, because if he has enough money to do that, I'm going to take that money and put it on school teachers, give it to school teachers. But I do commend anyone who's doing a campaign of any type regarding addiction, and that was one of my goals as governor. This is not a Republican or Democrat issue. I could care less about the partisanship or future campaigns. We've got a major addiction issue in our country regarding alcohol, drugs, and that includes prescription drugs too. In fact, I met with a lot of university or private college presidents the other day in the mountains, and I was very blunt with them that a lot of your students have alcohol and drug problems, and some of them will never recover, and it will destroy families, it will destroy them, and it will also be very costly to taxpayers. And we better quit sweeping the addiction issue underneath the rug. So if the Attorney General is helping spread that message, great. I think that's fantastic.
Governor, we're going to be up against a hard break here in a minute. I want to ask you about this. You mentioned school teachers, and that's been the hot topic. And then when you and Phil Berger and Tom Tillis released your new teacher pay plan for new school teachers, there was the media covered a lot of the ideas that school teachers, veteran school teachers, were angry about that. I was really interested that this new polling company, American Insights, we had them on the show last week, released an approval number really supporting and saying that the people in North Carolina do support your teacher pay plan. They also had your approval rating at 43%, which is the highest number we've seen. We haven't seen anything close to that from the Democratic-leaning public policy polling. They had your disapproval rating, though, very high also, at 40%. What are your reactions to those numbers and the fact that there is now a new polling company that's going to be polling North Carolinians in a different and I think more comprehensive way?
Well, again, I'm not making decisions based upon polls. I know when I came in here to Raleigh, I was going to have to step on a lot of toes, and I've said that. I've stepped on toes of even my fellow Republican senators. I've stepped on toes of the powerful Democratic Party that's ruled the state for 25 years, and it is a machine. And a lot of things I've done don't poll well, but I knew we had to make the tough decisions on unemployment, on some of the education reform, on some of the teaching reform, and some of the other things. But I'm going to make decisions not based upon polls, but what I think is right. And it's my job between now and the next election to convince people that those were the right decisions. And by the way, our unemployment rate again dropped in North Carolina when we became governor. Our unemployment rate was 9.4%, the fifth highest in the country. We're now not even in the top 30 in the country regarding unemployment. We're down to 6.6%, I believe. I mean, that is one of the largest drops in the United States regarding unemployment in North Carolina, and that's what I said I'd do. and I'm still I'm still a tenth of a point below South Carolina. And that was my goal, was to catch up to South Carolina.
Well, you said it throughout the campaign that you were trying to catch South Carolina. We are out of time.
But we've caught most states, and my job was to put people back to work, and instead of having people not have jobs and live off of government subsidies, and that's exactly what we're doing, and that's what I made a commitment to do, and we're going to continue to do just that. And then, by the way, we're also going to put more money in no, there will be no teacher in North Carolina making less than $35,000 a year next year, regardless of where they live.
That's the first time we've heard that from you. Is that breaking news?
No, that's the commitment we made. That does survey well.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's our base pay, and from 1 to 10 years experience, we had a lot of teachers making less than $35,000. In fact, $30,800.